The human who saved a world. The sky was burning red. Explosions rocked the alien city as the last battle ended. Giant machines lay broken. Smoke covered the skies. The war was finally over, but at a terrible cost. Deep beneath the ruins of the alien capital, in a hidden bunker, a glowing device hummed with deadly energy. It was the Planet Killer, a weapon so powerful it could destroy not just the alien planet but others nearby too. And standing next to it was a human. Captain Elias Ward. He had been part of a special rescue team sent to stop the weapon. All the others were gone, dead or missing. Only Elias remained. His armor was cracked, his breathing heavy, blood dripping down one arm. But he was still moving. He stared at the countdown. 5 minutes, he muttered. That's all I've got. The control panel was in a strange alien language, but Elias didn't need to understand the words. His instincts and training told him where to press. He reached out, sparks flying all around him. Outside, the alien queen stood on a ruined tower. Her people watched her, waiting. The enemy had surrendered. But if the weapon went off now, all of them would die. An aide ran to her. Your Majesty, the human, he's still down there. The queen's sharp eyes narrowed. Why? No idea. He stayed behind when the rest of his team escaped. She didn't reply, just looked toward the burning sky. Something inside her, something old, something buried, moved. A feeling she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Underground, Elias worked fast. His hands bled. The heat grew worse. The device screamed in warning. But he kept going. Come on, he whispered. One wrong wire, one wrong move. Boom. But he didn't stop, because he remembered the message his team had received. There are children still alive in the city. He wouldn't let them die, even if it meant staying behind alone. Just as the countdown reached 10 seconds, Elias slammed one final switch. The light vanished. Silence. He collapsed beside the machine, breathing hard, eyes slowly closing. Days later, a quiet room, soft light, strange music playing gently. Elias opened his eyes. He was alive. He blinked and sat up. His wounds were healed. He was in a tall room with glass walls filled with floating plants and glowing orbs. Then he saw her, the queen, tall, regal, beautiful, in a strange alien way. Her skin was a glowing silver blue. Her eyes, violet, glowing softly, watched him with curiosity and something else. Admiration. You are awake, she said. Elias tried to sit up straighter. Where am I? You are in the royal palace of Valeria, she replied. You saved our world. You saved my people. Elias blinked. I just stopped a weapon. The queen stepped closer. Her voice was calm but strong. You were supposed to escape, but you stayed. Alone. Why? Elias smiled weakly. Someone had to press the button. A long silence. Then she did something no one expected. She knelt before him. You saved my kingdom, my people, even me. So as queen, I give you one royal gift, a wish. Anything you want from my empire, riches, land, ships, knowledge, even a crown. Elias's face showed no greed, no hunger for power, just quiet thought. He looked at her, then said, I'll think about it. The queen stood, shocked. No one had ever said that before. Every alien who ever received a royal gift asked instantly, but not this human. He smiled again, slowly. I want to understand before I choose. The queen's heart skipped a beat. She turned away, hiding the small shake in her breath. Very well, she said. Think carefully, but choose wisely. And with that, she left the room. Outside the chamber, her advisors waited. He hasn't asked for anything, one of them whispered. The queen's eyes were distant. No, he said he would think. The advisors looked uneasy. "Your Majesty," said another, "humans are dangerous when they think." The queen didn't reply. She just looked out the window where the alien sun rose again for the first time in peace. And she wondered, what kind of man turns down power just to understand the people he saved? The alien queen's dilemma. For the first time in years, the Queen of Valeria couldn't sleep. She sat alone on her crystal balcony, high above the royal palace, watching her twin moons drift across the sky. Her people were celebrating below, dancing, singing, lighting fires of peace. The war was over. The danger was gone. The planet was safe. All because of one man, one human, Captain Elias Ward. She had offered him anything, a royal wish no being had ever refused, but he hadn't asked for gold, or land, or even power. He had said something simple, something dangerous. "I'll think about it." In her chambers, the queen paced. She wore no crown, no armor tonight, only a soft robe of flowing stardust fabric. Alone, she looked less like a ruler, and more like a woman with a secret. Her thoughts kept returning to Elias. He had seen death. He had bled for a world that wasn't his. Yet when faced with reward, he had only smiled and said he wanted to understand. Understand what? Her? Her people? Their pain? She sat by the fire, remembering his eyes. Calm, curious, honest. No one had looked at her like that since her bonded mate died in the third cycle of the war. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Why do you haunt my mind, human?" Meanwhile, Elias walked alone in the royal garden. Soft lights glowed from beneath the trees. Strange flowers opened only at night. He watched them, curious. A young alien servant approached. "Sir, the Queen invites you to the Hall of Memory." Elias nodded. "Lead the way." The Hall of Memory was quiet and dim. Its walls were made of transparent stone, showing millions of tiny floating lights, each one a name of the dead. Elias stared at them in silence. They're beautiful," he said. "They're our lost Mikau," said a voice behind him. The queen entered. She wore no crown. Her hair fell loose. Her expression was unreadable. "Every light," she said, "is someone I failed to protect." Elias looked at her carefully. "You didn't fail them. You ended the war." She smiled bitterly. "After losing half my people, after watching my own mate die in my arms, do you call that victory, human?" Elias stepped closer. His voice was soft. "I call that survival." She met his eyes. "And what do you call yourself?" He thought for a second. A man who didn't want to run while children were still in danger. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the queen asked, "Have you thought about your wish?" He nodded. "But I'm still watching, still learning." She sighed. "You confuse me. I've dealt with warlords, kings, and murderers. But you simply walk through our halls like they belong to you." Elias shrugged with a small grin. "Maybe they do." The queen's heart skipped. Was it a joke or something more? Later that night, in a secret chamber, the queen met her advisors. One old general spoke sharply. "He's playing a long game, Your Majesty. He wants the throne, or worse." "He saved the planet," she said. "He made you feel something," the general replied coldly. "That is far more dangerous." The queen stood silently, then turned away. She didn't have answers, only questions. But deep inside, something stirred, a warmth, a fear, a curiosity. What kind of human waits when power is already in his hands? Back in his quarters, Elias sat by the window writing in a small digital notebook. He had been watching the queen, watching her people. The wounds of war were deep, trust was thin. But still, he saw beauty in them, in her, and something else. She carried a sadness she never spoke of. He didn't want her empire. He wanted her to smile and mean it. The next morning, The queen entered the garden alone and found Elias waiting there. "You didn't ask for anything again," she said. "I will," he replied. "When I find something worth wishing for." She raised an eyebrow. "And if that thing is forbidden?" He smiled softly. "Then maybe it's time to change the rules." The wish everyone fears? Whispers traveled like wind across the halls of the Valerian palace. The human still hasn't made his wish. He's waiting for something big. Maybe he wants to rule beside her. Every corner buzzed with rumors. Servants talked in secret. Advisors exchanged nervous glances. Even the guards tightened their grips on their weapons when Elias passed, and in the throne room the queen sat in silence, her eyes fixed on nothing. It had been 5 days since she had granted the wish, and the human said nothing. Elias walked through the palace like a quiet storm, calm on the outside but sharp eyes taking in everything, guards, doors, nervous stares. He didn't look like a man planning to conquer, but something about his silence made the entire court uneasy. It wasn't normal. No alien ever delayed a royal wish. To delay was to plot. That morning, the queen summoned Elias. She sat alone. No guards, no advisors. The great glass room around her shimmered with stars. She wore black, the color of mourning and truth. "I want answers," she said firmly. Elias bowed his head slightly. "I'll try. You walk like a guest, but you carry yourself like a king. You speak like a friend, but you say little. Why are you still here, Elias Ward?" He looked at her quietly, then answered, "Because I haven't seen the real you, yet." The queen blinked. "What?" "I've seen the throne, the crown, the warrior, the ruler. But I haven't seen the woman who stood in the fire and didn't break." Her breath caught for a moment. Something hit her chest, deep and sharp. "Is that your wish?" she whispered. "To own what no one else can reach?" Elias shook his head. "No, that's not what I want. I don't want to own anything. I just want the truth." She looked away. For a queen feared by millions, this moment felt terrifying. Later, in the royal war room, the advisors gathered around the queen. "He's playing with your emotions," one of them warned. "He's dangerous," said another. "Let us force the wish out of him," said the general. "No more waiting." The queen raised a hand. "No," she said. "I want to know what he sees." "Your Majesty," the old general said, leaning in, "you are letting him inside your mind. That is how humans conquer, without firing a shot." The queen stood. Her voice was cold. "I don't fear conquest. I fear regret." That evening, the queen found Elias in the starlit garden, where birds sang soft songs in trees that glowed blue. She walked toward him in silence. He spoke first. "Your people fear me." "They fear your silence," she replied. "And you?" he asked gently. "Do you fear me too?" She didn't answer for a long time. Then, finally, she said, "I fear that you might be exactly who I hoped you were." Elias looked at her then, not at the queen, not at the ruler of 1,000 systems, but at the lonely soul behind the mask. "I made my decision," he said softly. Her heart skipped. "Tell me." But Elias didn't say it. Instead, he held out his hand. Her lips parted, slightly. What is this?" "My wish," he said. "I want you to take my hand. Not as a queen, not as a ruler, just as yourself." She looked at his hand, frozen. No one had ever touched her this way. No one had dared. She stepped closer, and slowly, trembling, placed her hand in his. The stars above them burned brighter. Across the palace, the alarms rang out. "The human has made his wish," shouted a voice. "Call the council. The queen must refuse. This breaks all protocols." But in that quiet moment, standing in the garden with Elias, the queen didn't hear them. Or maybe she didn't care. Back in the throne room, the council screamed for her attention. "You cannot accept this. You break the laws of the ancestors. This could start another war." The queen rose, eyes calm, voice strong. I offered him anything. She turned to the court, and he chose me, not my throne, not my empire, not my power, just me. Gasps echoed across the hall. Her eyes scanned the room. No one ever asked for me. Not for my heart, not for my truth. She looked back at Elias, standing quietly in the chamber. And that, she whispered, is the wish everyone fears, the test of loyalty. The royal halls were no longer quiet. Every room echoed with arguments. The Queen's council was in chaos. The nobles whispered like snakes in corners. And in the streets, the people didn't sing peace songs anymore. They asked questions. Why did the Queen accept the humans' wish? Why him? Why now? Is she in love with the alien who could have ruled us? Inside the palace, heavy silence had fallen between the Queen and Elias. After he made his wish, after she took his hand, nothing was the same. She had given him everything, without speaking the words aloud. But the world around them wouldn't stay silent. The Queen's most trusted general, Varka, stormed into the throne room. This is treason, he growled. He makes no vow. He holds no rank. He is still an outsider. Elias stood nearby, quiet but alert. The Queen raised one hand. He gave me his hand, not his sword. His loyalty, not his title. Varka pointed at Elias. Then let him prove it. The Queen frowned. How? There is unrest on the fire moon of Carix. Pirates who survived the war now steal from our own colonies. Send him there, alone. Let him bring peace not with his human tech, but with his words. Elias didn't hesitate. I accept. The Queen turned sharply. You don't have to. I want to, Elias replied. Let me show them. That peace doesn't wear armor. The Queen's heart trembled. She wanted to stop him, but she knew she couldn't protect him forever. Sometimes love meant letting go. Days later, on Carix. The fire moon was brutal. Lava rivers burned the land. Black storms cracked the sky. And among the chaos, pirate camps ruled with iron fists. Elias walked into their camp with no armor, no weapons, only a translator, a water canister, and a single message. I came from your Queen, not to fight, but to listen. The pirates laughed. Some spit, some raised weapons. But Elias didn't flinch. I once stopped a planet killer to save children I'd never met, he said. You're not monsters, you're survivors. Talk to me, or try to kill me. But I'm not leaving. For 2 nights they threatened him. On the 3rd night they listened, and on the 4th, the leader, an old war-scarred alien named Hazek, shared a meal with Elias. You're mad, human, Hazek said, but brave, and I respect brave. Elias grinned. That's how we humans usually win. One conversation at a time. By the end of the week, the pirates agreed to return to Valeria's control. Peacefully, Elias had done what no soldier or ambassador could. Back on Valeria. The Queen stood on the landing deck, her face tight with worry as Elias's ship returned. When he stepped out, covered in dirt, sunburned and smiling, she ran to him. She didn't care who saw. You're late, she whispered. Elias winked. You're worth the delay. The Queen breathed a shaky laugh, and for the first time in years her smile reached her eyes. But not everyone was smiling. High above, in the towers, the royal council watched. General Varka's voice was cold. He returned alive. With peace. The others nodded. He's too dangerous now, loved by her and respected by the people. One advisor whispered, what if his next wish is the throne? Varka's eyes narrowed. Then we take it away. Before he asks. That night, Elias stood on the palace balcony. The Queen stood beside him. Your people are beginning to believe in you, she said. I don't want them to believe in me, Elias replied. I want them to believe in you again. She looked at him, eyes full of something soft, something breaking through years of silence and fear. They already do, she whispered. Because I do. Far below them, in the shadows of the palace, Assassins moved in silence. Knives drawn. Orders clear. Kill the human before he takes the crown. Her reaction shakes. The palace night had fallen on the royal city of Valeria. Soft music played in the distance. Lanterns floated through the sky like glowing stars. On the surface, everything looked peaceful. But danger moved in the shadows. 3 black-cloaked assassins slipped through the palace walls like smoke. Trained by the Queen's own guard years ago, now working for those who feared change. Their mission was clear: kill the human before dawn. Do not wake the Queen. Inside the royal balcony suite, Elias stood barefoot, shirt off, drying his hair with a soft alien cloth. He had just finished a bath. The royal waters still smelled like spice and flowers. He didn't hear the door open, didn't hear the blades drawn, but he felt it, a shift in the air, a flicker of movement in the mirror. He ducked, just in time. A knife slashed through the air where his neck had been. He rolled across the floor, grabbing the heavy bath jug. He smashed it into the attacker's face. 1 down, but 2 more were coming. Fast. In the Queen's bedchamber across the hall. She jolted awake. Something was wrong. She didn't wait. No crown, no robe. She ran barefoot toward Elias's room. Elias fought like a soldier, but these weren't normal enemies. One sliced his shoulder. Blood ran down his arm. He blocked another strike with a chair, kicked one in the gut. He backed toward the balcony, nowhere else to go. Then, he slipped. His foot slid on the marble. One assassin lunged with a blade aimed at his chest. And suddenly, boom, the door exploded open, and the Queen entered, roaring in her native tongue. The air around her shimmered. Her eyes glowed violet. She raised her hand, and a blast of kinetic energy threw the last assassin across the wall. He didn't get up. Elias sat on the floor, breathing hard, blood on his arm, sweat on his brow. The Queen rushed to him, falling, to her knees. "Don't move," she cried. "Let me see. Where are you hurt?" He winced. "Just my shoulder. I've had worse." She pressed her hand to his wound. Her skin was cold, but her touch was shaking. "You were nearly—" She stopped, eyes filling with fury and something else, something worse, fear. "Who did this?" she whispered. Elias looked at her. "People who think I want your throne." She stared at him, heart thudding. "Do you?" she asked softly. Elias's reply was calm, gentle. "No, I want you, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore." She gasped, because no one had ever said that to her, not after everything, not after the war, the losses, the crown. Suddenly guards stormed in. Too late. They saw the blood, the bodies, and the Queen, kneeling beside the human, holding his face in her hands. The room froze. The Queen stood up, her voice was thunder. "Find who ordered this. I want their name by sunrise." The guards bowed low. "Yes, Your Majesty." She turned to Elias, helping him up with surprising strength. "You are no longer just a guest," she said. "From this night forward, you are under royal protection." Looked at her, blood still dripping from his shoulder, and smiled. "Does that come with a hug?" Her lips trembled. Then, before the guards, before the world, she wrapped her arms around him. Across the palace, the council sat in silence. The assassination had failed. The Queen had chosen her side, and the human wasn't just alive, he was in her arms. One counselor whispered, "What now?" General Varka stood slowly, face pale. "We just lost the empire," he said. "To one man who never asked for it." That night, the Queen stayed beside Elias as his wound was treated. She didn't wear a crown, didn't give orders. She just held his hand. And when he finally fell asleep, she whispered something no one had ever heard from her lips, not even her dead mate. "Please don't leave me." The storm. Before the crown, the palace was no longer a place of peace. Storm clouds gathered above, thick and black, hiding the stars. A strange wind howled through the royal spires. Even the lights in the halls flickered, like they too were afraid. Inside, the Grand Council chamber, the Queen stood alone at the center of the circle. 12 counselors, nobles, generals, advisors, stood around her in a ring of cold silence, and above them all, the ancient royal laws floated in glowing light. No foreign blood may ever touch the throne. General Varka stepped forward, voice like a blade. Your Majesty, we asked for a ruler, not a lover. The Queen's jaw tightened. What I do with my heart is not your concern. Another elder noble hissed. It is when that human becomes a symbol, when the people start chanting his name instead of yours. A third slammed his staff to the floor. You let him live, you held him in your arms, you broke a 1,000-year law in front of your own guards. She didn't blink. Yes, she said. I did. Far across the palace, Elias sat at the Queen's private window. His arm still hurt, wrapped in white cloth. But his mind hurt more. He could hear the echoes from the chamber below. Shouts, angry voices, words like traitor and exile. He didn't belong here, not in this place, not in her world. And yet, when he thought of her eyes, her voice, her trembling hands holding his, he couldn't walk away. Not now. Back in the chamber, the shouting grew louder. General Varka slammed his fist on the table. Then hear this. If you continue down this path, we will strip you of the throne. You may be queen by blood, but not by law. Gasps echoed across the room. The Queen did not shout. She did not beg. She stepped forward, her voice calm, but it made the walls tremble. Then strip me. Dead silence. One by one, the council members looked at her, stunned. She took off her crown, set it on the floor, removed the royal sash from her shoulder, then spoke, not like a ruler, but like a woman who had seen love break every wall inside her. Power means nothing without a soul to share it with. At that moment, Elias entered the chamber, wounded, limping, but standing tall. The guards tried to stop him, but the Queen raised a hand. Let him speak. Elias walked into the circle and stood beside her, not behind, not lower. Beside. He looked at the council. I didn't ask for the throne. I didn't want your empire. I only wanted to stay beside the one person in this galaxy who never treated me like a weapon. One noble sneered. What gives you the right to speak in this sacred place? Elias replied. The same thing that gave me the right to stop your superweapon, Abram, when all your soldiers ran. The room cracked in half. Not with noise, but with truth. One counselor sat down, slowly, silent. Another looked away in shame. The Queen turned to Elias, her voice soft, but unshaken. Do you still want me, if I am no longer queen? He looked at her, smiled. I wanted you before the title. I'll want you long after it's gone. And then, a voice from the door. Not from a noble, not from a general, from a young alien girl dressed in simple robes, barely 16. My village sings your name, human, she said, stepping forward. Not because you saved the Queen, but because you made her smile again. A ripple of murmurs passed through the council. Then a second voice, then a third. Servants, soldiers, even a former rebel. They gathered in the chamber, filling the edges of the circle. One by one they bowed, not to the council, not to tradition, but to the Queen and her human. General Varka looked around. He knew it was over. He stepped back into the shadows and said nothing more. That night thunder broke the skies. Rain poured down like a curtain. In the Queen's private chambers, she stood beside Elias, watching the lightning dance across the glass. I lost the crown today, she whispered. No, Elias said gently. You gave it away, that's stronger. She turned to him, and this time she didn't hesitate. She kissed him, not as a ruler, but as a woman who had finally found someone strong enough to choose her over power. Her final gift wasn't power, it was her heart. The storm had passed, but its echo remained in the skies of Valeria. The people still whispered about the day the queen stepped down and chose the human. Some called it madness, others called it courage. But in every corner of the empire something had changed. For the first time in centuries, hearts beat louder than laws. The royal crown sat untouched in the Hall of Light. No one had dared to move it. No one except the queen. She stood before it now wearing a simple white robe. No symbols of power, no armor. Her violet eyes reflected the floating lights that shimmered above her, the names of every queen before her. She didn't cry. She didn't kneel. She only placed her hand over her heart and whispered, "Thank you." Behind her, Elias entered the hall. He wore ceremonial robes too, though they felt strange on him. Still, he smiled when he saw her. "You sure about this?" he asked softly. She turned to him, her silver blue skin glowing in the soft light. "I never wanted to be a queen," she said. "I only wore the crown to stop the war, but now, the war is inside me, and I want peace." Elias stepped closer. He didn't take her hand right away. He waited. She looked down, almost shy. "You haven't made your wish yet." "I did," he replied gently. "I wished for the real you. And I got her." Later that day, the royal announcement echoed across the empire. The queen would not abdicate, but she would change everything. No longer would royalty be chosen by blood alone. No longer would love be seen as weakness. No longer would the law forbid someone from choosing a human. And as the people gathered outside the palace, waiting for the new era to begin, the queen stepped forward, standing tall on the balcony, and spoke in a voice that made the clouds part. "I once ruled through fear, through duty, through silence. But that is over." She turned, and Elias walked beside her, for all to see. "I now choose to lead through love, through truth, through unity, and I do not walk alone." The crowd was silent for a heartbeat. Then it erupted, cheering, singing. Some cried, some laughed. But all of them believed. That night, the stars returned to Valeria. The storm clouds were gone, and in the royal garden, quiet and full of flowers, Elias stood barefoot in the grass, staring at the moons. The queen joined him. She carried no guards, no weapon, just a box in her hand. "I have something for you," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Another crown?" She smiled and shook her head. Opening the box, she revealed a small glowing stone, a heart crystal. Rare, sacred, only given once in a lifetime. "My people believe this holds a soul," she said. "When you give it to someone, it means you've given them everything." Elias was quiet. He took it slowly and closed the box. "I can't accept this," he whispered. She looked at him, heart sinking. "Why?" He stepped forward and took her hand. "Because I don't need a crystal to know what you've given me." He gently placed the box in her hand, then leaned in and kissed her forehead. "I'll keep your heart, the real one." Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of peace. Months passed. Elias helped rebuild the colonies, taught peace missions, spoke to young aliens about what it meant to be brave, not just with weapons, but with choices. The queen led a new council, not just nobles, but farmers, healers, soldiers, and teachers. Together they shaped a future better than any before. And still, every night, she returned to the garden, where Elias waited. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they said nothing at all, because some love doesn't need words. 1 year later, the people celebrated the day of silence, the day the weapon was stopped, the day the human stayed behind. A giant statue now stood in the capital, not of a king, not of a god, but of a man, holding out his hand, and a queen, reaching for it. The owl, plaque read, "He chose her, and she chose peace." In their private chamber, Elias sat on the edge of the bed. The queen rested beside him, her head on his shoulder. "Do you regret giving it all up?" he asked. She closed her eyes. "No. I gained something more powerful than any empire." He kissed the top of her head. She whispered, "And you?" "I came here to stop a weapon," he said. And instead, he smiled. "I started a love story." They fell asleep with no crown above them, no soldiers at the door, just each other. And that night, the stars of Valeria burned brighter than ever before.